take another look. Let's fight for change. Haiti, take another look. You feel the same. Haiti, take another look. We started from the bottom, try to reach to the top. It's l'union fait la force. We learn that from the start. No matter what we go through, come together as people. We've done it all before. This be another sequel. From DC way back then, been doing a damn thing. Tell it like I, yeah, we back doing the same thing. Many of us disasters done left the country shook. We can't put it back together. Come take another look.
Haiti, take another look.
Good evening and welcome to Télé Lacaille. I'm your host, Jimmy Jacques. Tonight on our show, we will continue to look into the investigation of the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse. And here is what we know so far today. And that is that the President of Colombia, which, by the way, was home to some of the suspects, says now that some of them knew that their mission was to kill the Haitian president, while some of the others had received different instructions. Now, adding to the confusion were comments from the Colombia police chief, who stated that some of the suspects were planning to hand over the president to America's Drug Enforcement Agency, or, as we know it, the DEA. But there's no indication of the DEA's direct involvement, and the agency declined to comment on the story. Also, it seems that the FBI and the other international investigators have revealed to the New York Times that Haitian authorities refused to let them interview all of the suspects who have been arrested. We also know that the acting Prime Minister, Mr. Claude Joseph, has requested for military backup from the U.S. government, but the Biden administration said that they have no plans of sending troops to Haiti at this time. Tonight, we will look at the possible motives for this assassination and who it would have been benefited, and also the roles of Haiti's oligarchs in the country, and the roles of the international community, and the roles of the diaspora. To help us better understand the situation, we have two important guests with us tonight on our panel. I would like to introduce first on our panel Professor Jean Eddy Saint Paul, who is in New York, and also we have on our panel, and this lady needs no introduction, she is what we call in our community a potomitan, who is very well respected in our community, and I'm talking about none other than Professor Leonie Hermantin. Good evening and welcome everyone to Télé Lacaille, to our platform. It's a pleasure having you.
Pleasure. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me, for inviting me.
Yes, it's a pleasure having you both. Before we begin, could each one of you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself? And we will begin with Ms. Hermantin.
Well, thank you. I'm Leonie Hermantin. I am the Director of Development and Communications at Miami's Haitian Neighborhood Center, Saint-Pla. We're a social service agency and we serve over 11,000 people, mostly Haitians, in the Miami-Dade County community.
Wonderful.
Okay. Mr. Saint Paul? Professor Saint Paul.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Jean Eddy Saint Paul. So I am a defender of Haiti intellectually. I'm currently a Brooklyn College sociology professor at the City University of New York, and also I'm the founder of the Haitian Studies Institute at the City University of New York. My pleasure
Very
to be
good.
with you.
All right. Pleasure having you. Mr. Saint Paul, Haiti has been in a constitutional crisis for a while now. How do you see the impact of the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse on the country?
First and foremost, I would like to share my deepest sympathies to the family of the President Jovenel Moïse, who was cowardly assassinated. The impact of this assassination can be understood differently on different levels. First, in terms of image, so it's not nothing good for us, Haitian people living in the diaspora and Haitian living in Haiti, to have the president of our country assassinated, because Jovenel Moïse was not only Jovenel Moïse, he was the president, and according to the Constitution of 1987, Jovenel Moïse, the presidency also has a symbolism. Jovenel Moïse was the head of the state. So the assassination of Jovenel Moïse also is a certain kind of assassination of every Haitian people. So that has had a very negative impact for everyone. And also that assassination has brought more and more instability to the very weak political institution that we have in Haiti. And thirdly, that assassination also has also divided the Haitian diaspora, because as you might know, politically speaking, in the diaspora, we have very polarized communities, and that polarization also should be understood as the legacy of the dictatorship of longue durée, the dynastic dictatorship of the Duvalier, and that long-lasting dictatorship has also shaped the political culture of Haitian people in the diaspora. So that assassination also was nothing good for us, both in Haiti and the diaspora. And I lamented that assassination, because despite the fact that Haitian people, both in Haiti or in the diaspora, they might have some problem with the political practice of Jovenel Moïse, his what we call in political sociology, his governmentality, the way that he governed the country, but no one with dignity would accept the murder of a president. Haitian people, even the most opponent of Jovenel Moïse, they never asked for his murder. They have asked, for instance, to hold co-opted politicians, not only Jovenel Moïse, because we don't have enough evidence about Jovenel Moïse, but we have evidence of many predecessors of Jovenel Moïse that have very deep implication in political corruption. So in Haiti, we have a strong grassroots, what I would call civil society from below, and the grassroots activists from the grassroots, they have been asked for accountability. But we Haitian people, we don't have that kind of violence in us. So, and also the president was not actually assassinated, but we cannot say that completely, because the investigation is is ongoing.
It's ongoing.
Yeah, but Haitian people, we don't have that violence in our vein, in our culture.
Yeah. Leonie, the house is broken. Haiti is broken. Would you say that now is the time for a new group of younger politicians to take the helm of Haiti?
Well,
how do you feel about that?
Again, I would also like to reiterate the fact that whether we agreed with him or not, whether we supported him or not, this assassination, this cowardly assassination of President Jovenel Moïse affects us all. I would disagree a little bit with Dr. Saint Paul in saying that his assassination is not the assassination of the Haitian people. The Haitian people will not die so easily. So it's a blow, but as for other things, we have resistance, not just resilience, and we will continue to go the course. Now, in terms of politicians, I hate to think of Haiti's future simply in terms of politicians. I think that we are applying a model to, practices that don't necessarily apply to our reality. when you go to the majority of, the outside of Port-au-Prince, Haiti, it's not the politicians that rule. It's collective. It's collective, and I think that Dr. Saint Paul has talked about that. Even when discussing the Constitution, is that there are certain rules that are imposed on practices and traditions that are much more collectivist, much more communal than what has been imposed on us. So I think that at some point we have to start thinking about, is the politician model what we want? There are many young voices that have emerged and who are asking for us to look at, look at how we can govern ourselves differently. And I think that if we are given this opportunity to pause, before we go into elections, if we're given the opportunity to pause, to listen to the multiple civil society partners who are working towards the visioning of a new Haiti, I suspect that we're going to be looking at the future of Haiti less tied to politicians, but to new ways of governance.
People are also saying that the solution to all of this should come from the Haitian people directly, and it should be a government of national unity. What role do you see the U.S. government potentially playing in Haiti after the assassination?
Dr. Saint Paul?
Okay. So first, I would like to bring to your attention that if we scrutinize the recent involvement of the U.S. into Haitian politics, the U.S. didn't leave anything good for us. Remember, after that, a coup was engineered in Washington and Paris in 2004 to overthrow the then elected President Jean-Bertrand Aristide. Despite the fact I was not a fan of Aristide, because I wrote a book in order to condemn, for instance, the way that Jean-Bertrand Aristide legitimized the Chimay in the public arena. But I disagree with the way they kidnapped Aristide in 2004. But after the kidnapping of Aristide in 2004, the U.S. sent, the United Nations minister, the United Nations mission for the stabilization of Haiti. But look, the legacy of the minister. So the minister, when they left Haiti recently, so Haiti was in a more chaotic situation than before. And I think that now Haitian people, we are claiming our sovereignty. Now we are in a global context of struggle against structural racism, against institutional racism, against any kind of racism, against racialized capitalism. But Haiti in 1804, we started everything. We started the fight for Black liberation. We started the movement of Black Lives Matter when Black Lives Matter was not even hashtagged, right? So I think now the claim for Haitian sovereignty, the U.S. should listen to the voice of Haitian people, both in Haiti and in the diaspora. And finally, to give us a chance to figure out our own solution. Because if we take a look back in the 19th century and throughout the 20th century, the same way that last year, the police officer, Derek Chauvin, put his feet on the neck of George Floyd. Yes. So it was the same way that the international community has also put their knees on the neck of Haiti. I think it's time now to stop that kind of foreign policy that has negatively affected the life of both Haitian people in the diaspora.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Jean Paul. I think that even when we're talking about the U.S. role in Haiti, we have to call it as it is. We have to look at the history of the United States in Haiti since the occupation. We have to say that even when we call ourselves a sovereign state, we have, at least since the 60s and at least the 70s, really been vassalized by the United States. We all know that there are no decisions, political decisions, and economic decisions that take place in Haiti without without the approval or disapproval of the American government. We know what happened with Michel Martelly. We know that Michel Martelly came out in third place during the elections, and for some reason he was catapulted to second place. We know that
and became president.
We know
Yes.
that through the State Department, the USAID has invested millions in training the police. We know that no police chief is appointed in Haiti without the approval of the State Department and the U.S. Embassy. We know that USAID has been spending millions and millions of our tax dollars in Haiti, and they refuse to be accountable for what they do with those funds. And so, to talk about U.S. involvement as if it's something that is, we're talking about simply as if it's sending troops, is really not describing the reality in Haiti. That nothing happens in Haiti today without the consent of the U.S., of the ambassador, and the international community. The UN has over 18 departments in Haiti today. 18, not one, not two, and they keep talking about us again as if they're not involved. They're remote. They're sort of outside looking in, and
Yes.
that if anything's going to happen, it's going to have to be an intervention. But let's face the facts. The intervention is there. They've just been watching and allowing things to happen because, to some degree, and I'm not sure how, it serves their national interest or their own interest. But they are in Haiti. They are very cognizant of what's happening in Haiti, and nothing happens without their blessings. We're looking at this confusion with the Prime Minister, who came forward and basically declared, I'm choosing this guy over anything else. I'm not even going to give you space to work it out among yourselves.
Yeah.
I'm just coming in and I'm deciding for you all who the Prime Minister should be.
Yeah, and you're talking about Lima.
Lalim.
Lalim.
Isn't that an act of intervention of Gramoun like Al Gramoun, like Haitimoun?
Qui doit pour faire un bagay comme ça?
To me, that's a blatant act of showing power. I'm here and I'm telling you who you got. There's confusion. Constitutional scholars in the country have not agreed, but yet I, self-appointed representative of the United Nations, will tell you who you all should choose.
And with no questions asked by anyone.
That's intervention for you. That's occupation for you.
That's occupation. Does any of you think that there should be an independent investigation in the assassination other than the one that is being done right now by the U.S. government? I mean, look, we've had guys that were working as informant for the DEA who was involved. You have military mercenaries from Colombia. You have mercenaries arriving in the DR in order to enter Haiti. Do any of you think that there should be an independent investigation into what happened?
First, for instance, I studied in Bogota, Colombia. It was where I got my master's degree. And what happened to Jovenel Moïse, the way that they assassinated him, responded to what scholars have called like a transnational crime. It was a transnational crime, the way that they perpetrate that. You have Colombia, and Colombia is a country that is very important in narco stupefacient, narco traffic.
Yes.
And Haiti is a country since the 2000 Plan Colombia under the administration of Andres Pastrana. Haiti became a route of transit for the navigation, the transportation of drug from South America to the U.S. and also the condition of the assassination of Jovenel Moïse aren't clear, because 1 month before that assassination, Jovenel Moïse gave the letter of lettre de créance, the diplomatic letter to a diplomat from Russia. So there are many things. There are members of the DEA involved in that assassination, although the DEA denied that. So I personally do think that the National Police of Haiti couldn't lead the investigation, because many hypotheses and assumptions have suggested also they might be, part of that crime. So I do think that we need an international commission of specialist people with experience in forensic science, not only in a commission made by only U.S. people, U.S. citizens, but a more multinational, commission of experts, some from the global north and others country of the global south, in order to advance in that investigation, because the Haitian people lost confidence in the National Police of Haiti. The current ad interim director of the National Police of Haiti, so many people do not believe him, including the current, de facto prime minister, because Claude Joseph is not a prime minister, he's just a de facto prime minister, because Jovenel Moïse, before they assassinated him, also he lost confidence in Claude Joseph and the administration of Claude Joseph. That's why he nominated Dr. Ariel Henry in lieu of Claude Joseph. And the nomination, was published on July 6th in the Monitor, the official newspaper of the government. So we cannot understand why Claude Joseph was outside of the game. And now, Madame Lalim, as Miss Hermantin pointed out well, so Madame Lalim is sponsoring Claude Joseph, but Claude Joseph doesn't have any kind of legitimation whatsoever. Even the PHTK, the political party of, then Jovenel Moïse, do not recognize the legitimacy of Claude Joseph. The civil society does not recognize Claude Joseph. And his name also has been quoted in Caracol Noticias, and I studied in Colombia, and Caracol Noticias, they did an investigation. Caracol Noticias is the most prestigious, media, TV in Colombia, in Bogota. So Claude Joseph should be someone who should be also investigated. So I think that is enough. It's time for Haitian people to tell the U.S. we couldn't continue in that situation, because what the U.S. is trying to do is to undermine us, undermine our institution, and by doing so, it will come a time they will say, look, this is Haiti, this is Haitian, and this is racism, this is white supremacy. That has to stop.
I think that our government has already undermined the institutions. I think that our government, the government of Haiti, I have to say, has done plenty to undermine and almost destroy institutions in this country, whether it is allowing the Senate and the chamber to to just go without any elections, so that I think that's a major undermining. Whether it's not waging an investigation to find out who killed the Supreme Court, justice, we have no investigation. So that the Haitian people have lost faith in any effort by the government to investigate anything doesn't start with the assassination of the president. I think that we've lost faith a long time ago. I mean, we still don't know who killed Jean-Dominique. So it's not even something of Jovenel Moïse. We still don't know. So our faith in the police and its power to investigate crimes is something that has been very weakened by their own practices. So we can't even point to anybody but us in that sense.
Yeah,
in terms of the investigation, again, it's kind of an affront that we would have to turn to outsiders to do it. But I absolutely understand the necessity. And I also understand the necessity to let other people run this investigation, because frankly, it's become a distraction. It's become a distraction from what we have to do moving forward to get this country back on track. It's shameful that the president had to be killed that way. Clearly, it's something that has an inside job smell to it. And of course, we want to know, but we're also concerned about the 18,000 internally displaced people who have had to flee their homes because of the violence, the gang violence. We're concerned about a country that is just floating aimlessly because of lack of even appointed leadership. We are very concerned about a lot of things that are happening in Haiti. So I would absolutely hope that this investigation be taken over so that we can focus on what's next for Haiti.
And quickly, I just wanted, I think, Mr. Hermantin made very good, interesting point, and I just wanted to say something. It's important for us in the media, in the civil society, and in the academic community of scholars to also inform U.S. citizens, and inform the world that the failure of our institution is not something that is cultural, that is only internal to the political behavior of Haitian, but also the international community, and more specifically, the U.S. has a big moral, responsibility in that. For instance, in 1995, when the National Police of Haiti was created, so it was the U.S. who trained the police, through a program called ICITA, and ICITA belonged to the Justice Department. So the U.S. institution has been involved in the design of our institution. So if, for instance, now the National Police is a failure, the failure is not a failure only that is the responsibility of Haitian, it's also a failure and a responsibility of U.S. institution too. This is only what I would like to add.
Wonderful, that is great. I like that back and forth, that was very well. My next question would be, what role can the Haitians in the diaspora play? Because here we are, we have a lot of scholars here. We are, or would you say 80% of the, I guess, educated, the ones that are able to be a part of what needs to take place in the country are outside of the country. What role do you see the diaspora can play in this, or should play? Mr. Hermantin.
Well, I think that the diaspora can play multiple roles. The diaspora, first of all, is not one homogeneous group. We call ourselves Haitian Americans, we call ourselves the diaspora, but while we may be united in our desire to see a better Haiti, to see Haiti live up to the gift that was given to us by our ancestors. I know that, and clearly, with the passing of President Jovenel Moïse, we definitely seen a fractured diaspora, one that either treated him like a hero, and another that saw him otherwise. And I think that, so clearly it shows that there are different strategies, there are different visions, and so we have to consider, we cannot continue to speak of the diaspora as this one unified group. But I think that many of us in the diaspora have been engaging with Haitians in Haiti for at least, the people that I know, that I've been working with. We've been engaged in conversations with Haiti for over a year now. We have all been absolutely appalled and alarmed by the violence, the ungovernability of Haiti for the past 2 or 3 years. And so for a while there, we've been asking ourselves, what do we do? What can we do? We can't ask for regime change. We can't, we can't have an invasion. We can't ask for the US to take over. We can't ask to kill anybody. How do we, what is the vision of this Haiti that we want? How do we look at the problems? And how do we as Haitian Americans lobby our friends, lobby our allies within the halls of power to say hands off, to say we have problems, but stop with the band-aids, stop with these quick solutions, like let's do an election tomorrow. This is not what's going to solve the problem. And so our frustration has been that, more powerful forces, whether it's the government, the oligarchs, whoever has great interest in Haiti, have the ears of this power, of these folks, because they have lobbyists, because they have access. And so I think that that's been the goal for us, at least the groups that I'm involved with, is to first look at what is the problem, what's the diagnosis, and how do we deal with this problem without foreign intervention? How do we build up what's in Haiti? What are the traditions that have worked? What are the practices that have worked that we must elevate, that we must fortify to really make Haiti different? But I think that most of us are united, at least again, the folks that I deal with, the diaspora folks that I deal with, are united in understanding that foreign intervention is not the solution. The solution has to come from Haiti, and our role in the diaspora is to support and be the backup, support and play interference in a way in the United States to allow these voices, these indigenous, these local voices to find their strength and really be able to work on creating a new society.
So I think Ms. Hermantin responded beautifully. The question I will just, add some, make some additional contribution. First, I think that one of the big problems of the diaspora right now, one of the main concern is the gun-sponsored violence in Haiti. And because it is okay, because as a member of a diasporic communities, it's okay to have different ideology, different viewpoints on politics. This is okay. Many people living now, for instance, in the US, if we just want to talk about the US, because as we know, the diaspora goes long beyond US, right? But in the case of the US, now it's summer. Many members of the Haitian community who would like to travel to Haiti, to go back, to their to the countryside, in the north, in the south, in Plateau Central, in Grand'Anse, etc. But there is a state of fear in the diaspora because of the state-sponsored violence and the kidnapping. And recently I published an article in the Georgetown Journal of International Affairs. And in that article, I asked, for instance, the Biden-Harris administration to revise their policy on guns in Haiti. Because, for instance, we have a state guns violence, right? Since the arrival of PHTK, since 2011, to now we are living in a banditism legal banditism. But for having legal banditism, they need guns. But in Haiti, we do not manufacture guns. So I think even for the diaspora, we will need also the US to revise, the international community to revise their policy towards Haiti. Now, I do believe in local development. So I think in the diaspora, we need first a basic security, that Haitian people can travel to Haiti, because many members in the diaspora, they have different skills and competencies. So I do believe that, as I said before in the show with Ms. Hermantin, I strongly believe in local development. But we need also the local actor to create the basic condition that the diaspora can contribute, right? Mm-hmm. Also, when we are talking about diaspora, and that has also to do with the legacy of the long dictatorship of the Duvalier, because oftentimes we undermine the impact of that dictatorship in the framing of our political culture, right? So, but that dictatorship has also shaped our political culture. We need more political cohesion. We need more political cohesion among us in the diaspora, although I recognize we won't never have, a complete diaspora in which we are all friends, because democracy, is a process. Democracy is built in a tension between consensus and conflict. When we have conflict, it's good for us because conflict is part of our individuality. But we need a local actor to do their part. We in the diaspora, we want to contribute, we are contributing, but we have to be alive to contribute. And if you run a census now or a survey, Haitian people in the diaspora, they don't feel secure, to travel, to continue to contribute to Haiti. So we need that basic, step to pacify the country, to put those gangs under control, and we can then figure out the way we can continue to contribute to uplift, our people in Haiti.
Totally agree. Now, last question. This is to both of you. What happens? I mean, the international community is asking for, at one time it was elections in 3 months. Today, I'm pretty sure things has changed again. What do you think about that? Do you see elections happening at all right now in the country, the way it is?
I don't see it, but, former Prime Minister Laurent Lamotte, of course, has been going around saying that it's possible. And, we forgot to talk about the COVID crisis that is now exploding in Haiti. I mean, I just lost a cousin this week to COVID in Haiti.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Wow.
It was something that could have been avoided. Vaccines were offered to Haiti, and that was refused. And so that's just an aside. But I think that there is a machine that is ready to do something that they want to call elections. And they want to do that because the international community complicitly wants to accept that travesty as legitimate elections. And so if we're going to go by this travesty, then we can say that yes, elections will be possible in September. But we know that if it happens, it will be a travesty. It will be not even abandoned because it's so transparent that it is a travesty. And we will be stuck again in the same cycle. What is needed is time. What Haitian people, if we talk about traumatized people, we have been traumatized by violence. We have been traumatized by poverty. We are being traumatized by COVID. We don't need to go into an election right now. We need time. We need time to recoup. We need time to understand where we are. We need time to analyze where we want to go and how we want to go. And so, as I said, if you want to have a travesty, if you want something that's going to benefit a party that has pillaged the country, then yes, the elections will be possible. Right. Otherwise, if you listen to the Haitian people, you will do, what is right and wait.
I think the possibility to have election will depend on many factors. And before answering well that question, let me just remind you guys that during the administration of Jovenel Moïse, there were many social protests from 2018 to 2021, right? And the motto, one of the motto of those protests, those activists, our brothers and sisters, they were protesting against corruption, but remember always what they say. They want to chavire chaudière. Chavire chaudière, that means Haitian people, they want transformational change. And to have transformational change, election is not enough. Even if election were organized in a very fair way, etc., based on great condition, election is just a prerequisite for changing a system. But the condition, we don't have the accurate condition now to hold election in Haiti. I recall during those social protests, for instance, Petro Challenger of Nou Pap Dormi, or even Pierre Reginald Poulos in the movement of the third wave movement de la troisième voie, they said, oh, we want Jovenel Moïse to déloger le palais. We want Jovenel Moïse to vacate the National Palace. But now Jovenel Moïse is dead. Jovenel Moïse was assassinated. So now it's time for both civil society and the political class to find a minimum consensus. Because if they are unable to find that minimum consensus, I am afraid the international community, Madame Lalim, will continue to tell them what she thinks is good for them. Because if they couldn't, make a basic agreement, they will give reason to Madame Lalim that they are just children who do not know what they want, and the international community will always impose what they think is the good solution. But that solution won't never be good for Haiti, but it will be always good for the geostrategic and economic interests of the empire.
A president was just assassinated. A prime minister is a de facto prime minister. Another one came in. You have 10 senators where there should be 30 senators. You don't have any Congress. The whole system is gone. The whole system is gone. Yes. Having an election I remember I've always heard the story of an election that took place. I don't remember if it was during Duvalier or when it was, but in Ruelle Vaillant, long time ago, where people were going out to vote and then a massacre took place. We can't have that again. Yeah, we can't have that again.
No.
Haiti faces a very difficult road ahead.
But remember that it took, you know, if these elections take place in September, there have been no one has been we don't even know who the candidates are.
No, there's we're in August. We can say we're in August.
And all we know is that what's at stake is a constitutional amendment. Remember what they wanted to do. The referendum of June was not about elections. The referendum of June was about changing the elections in a way that, as some people have said, would guarantee PHTK rule over Haiti for the next 50 years. And so, you know, it's important for us to understand that the rush to elections is not about electing people, but the rush to elections is to change the Constitution. And this is why we have, and this is a Constitution that was changed by a de facto, but a president ruling by decree. A president ruling by decree, constitutional amendments that were not vetted by anyone, that were highly questionable, or at least questioned by constitutional scholars. And so we have a rush to approving changes in the Constitution, changes that have not been vetted, changes that have not, that have been, a lot of emotion have been used. They have spent a lot of money in the diaspora talking about this will give you, you can vote, as if we didn't have the right to vote before. And so, because we do, we did. And so, I think that it's a very, very dangerous, slippery slope. And I hope that the U.S. government stops, its rush to approve of these elections, the September elections, because they think that's going to be the convenient thing to do. It's about time that they do what is right for the Haitian people. We've suffered enough. We've really suffered enough. There has to be an end to the suffering of our people.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like just to add, the U.S. government won't stop, despite the fact that we would like, it's our job to say that, to ask that, but the empire, usually they have their own mentality. They are looking for their own interests. So we, for instance, as activists and scholars, we did our part, because talking about the fight against that referendum bidon, that fake referendum. So myself, as a scholar and also as a board of the Haitian Studies Association, like 2 months ago, I organized a panel discussion on the Haitian Constitution, and I invited from Haiti Chantal Udiku, Eval, and I invited, other scholars. We addressed the problem of the referendum. So activists are doing their part, but there are many things that are at stake. But the problem is, and my big worry is, the behavior of the member of the traditional political class in Haiti, because we have a society in which members of the traditional class, I won't mention any name to not making any personality, but it says they have kidnapped those institutions and they didn't give any space, for instance, to new leaders. For instance, the Petro Challenger movement just started, and it was very easy for them to co-opt the Petro Challenger. So And if in Haiti there is not like a consensus among the local actors to call for very quick for a national dialogue, to set a new agenda for the next 25 years.
Well, I have to disagree with you on that, Dr. Saint Paul, because
okay, go ahead.
There is a group that emerged. They know, again, a civil society commission. There was an article about them recently in the New York Times. They have been working, for over a year now, and this is again a coalition of multiple sectors of Haitian society.
Okay.
They have faith communities, they have Hungan, they have workers. They really made an effort to bring together, multiple diverse actors of Haiti civil society to begin this dialogue, to begin this conversation about this revisioning of Haiti and looking at what are the solutions for Haiti.
Yeah, but also thank you for your disagreement, and now I will push back on that, because remember when I sat with you and we addressed the Constitution, you remember the text, and I am a strong advocate for what we call the payant dehors, and I publish a lot of research on civil society, although I recognize there is an ongoing effort. But Ms. Hermantin, my big concern, we cannot rethink Haiti from the capital of Port-au-Prince. Those civil society actors, the movement, that initiative, for me, from my opinion, it doesn't have a strong connection with, it's too much centered, too much urban, centered into Port-au-Prince and the middle class elite bourgeoisie. Where is the masses? Where is the payant dehors? Where is the connection with the peasant?
I can tell you that they're there.
Okay, but
I participate in some meetings, and I can tell you that they're there.
Yeah, but I am quite skeptical. But let's see.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure having everyone here tonight, and I look forward to continuing our conversation, and we have to keep praying for our country. Hopefully one day the international community will give us a break, or let us do what we feel is right for us. Ms. Hermantin, Professor Hermantin, thank you for being here with us. Dr. Saint Paul, thank you. It was a pleasure having you both, and I look forward to having you here again. With all this negativity going on, finally there is some positive news coming out of Haiti. This week, Jessica Genius's film, Freda, made headlines at the Cannes Film Festival, where the crowd gave the cast of Freda a 10-minute standing ovation for their outstanding work. Congratulations, Jessica. We are very proud of you. Once again, we hope that you enjoyed our show this evening. We would also like to thank our guests, Dr. Jean Eddy Saint Paul and Ms. Leonie Hermantin, for being our guests tonight on Télé Lacaille. Before we leave you tonight, I would like to remind all of our viewers that the purpose of our show, Télé Lacaille, is to showcase the work, that we as Haitians are doing throughout the world. Our talents, our culture, our professions, and our history. And to also show to our beloved country, Haiti, the professionals that we have and who we are in the diaspora. So please, if you know someone who deserves to be recognized and that you would like to suggest to us for an interview, you may contact us at www.lakai@lakaienterprise.com, or you can go and visit our website at www.lakaienterprise.com. We hope to see you again next week, and please do tell a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and also hit the like button. Thank you and good night.